Well, welcome everybody to episode number 4 on our Lean Six Sigma series, where we're talking about analyze. Remember, the DMAIC model is define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. So we're at a really critical point in the process here. And what the goal would be is to, how can you understand what? Understand what you have found. Understand what you have identified in the data that you've gathered, the process maps you've completed, the different kinds of things that you have. So really now is the time to think about what you've done and what happens. Oh, you've already thought about what? The definition and how difficult it is. You've already thought about what? Developing a plan to measure. But now we're really challenging you to think, and more specifically to interact with the team. And so what you're really looking for is, what are the key inputs, or the X component that we talked about in the measure, and the output, or the Y? What are the variables that are there? And what is your key finding then, or what are your key findings for the X? So let's understand. Common picture sort of thing. Let's understand the cause and effect relationships. Let's prioritize. And maybe what we've found in our data is that as we looked at our process, there were several problem areas. Let's prioritize those problem areas and identify the top 1 or 2 and fix those, as opposed to trying to fix the entire process. So that's part of the analyze phase, is to really take a look at all of this and understand it. So the key steps are to conduct that value analysis, and again, looking at what has brought value to the customer and what is not valued or non-value, and waste. What is your process cycle efficiency? How efficient have you been in that process, or are you at this point? So analyzing the flow, analyzing the data is really the critical piece here. And then you can start to think about the causes and identifying some potential solutions as you move forward. And maybe again, back to, let's find the root cause, or the root causes that are really affecting and having an impact on the wasting that goes on in our system. So if you say did process cycle times, and so you did a check-in, check-out on 40 patients, and you just did it 40 patients over a 1 or a 2-day period. And so you said check-in is X and check-out is X. So you knew that the check-in was X, well, then the check-out is Y. So you've actually gone through the process and you've achieved the outcome of having that patient check out. And let's say the minutes ranged from 20 minutes for a visit to 157. So there was a pretty significant range of visits there. So which measures then would we choose from that data that we have gathered? We could do a mean or an average, and we could do a median, or we could do and certainly we've already identified the range. The point to make here is, if the range is huge, 20 to 157, the median may be a better measure for you to use. However, if that range is much more narrow, the average, and typically we like to look at the average or the mean in terms of identifying what we're at. So as you think about your data, you'll need to look at and come up with which measure to choose in terms of how you would look at it. In the analysis then, as we've gone through, we've looked at our data, we've gathered some of our data, we've maybe done a process map, we've done a few things like that, maybe a cause and effect diagram. So what we're really looking for now is to identify what's value add to the patient, what's non-value add, and then what are business value add? So let's define those terms. So a value add is really what the customer is willing to pay for. That's what they expect when they interact. And I've used the term patient, but let's think about customer. So the customer could be the payer, the customer could be the supplier. There's a lot of different customers that we need to seek to add value to that relationship that we have. The second value add piece is a business value add. And that business value add is something that the customer may not be necessarily willing to pay for, but that has an impact on and is necessary for us to conduct the business. And in a patient cycle time, What's a business value add? How about collecting the copay? Or how about getting appropriate and proper registration and insurance information? Customers not paying for those, but if we didn't have those, we would not be able to complete the process and complete the visit and be able to stay in business. Then there's the third component. So you got value add, business value add, and the third component is non-value add. Well, that non-value add is what? That's just a waste. That's wait time. That's over processing. That's moving things from one side of the desk to the other. That's a lot of waste in the process. So we're looking to either then eliminate those non-value add steps in the process, or B, we might actually be looking at the value add steps and trying to come up with, what can we do in this value add process? Should we do it now? Should we do it at a later time? Is it in fact necessary? And when is it necessary to do? So there's a lot of factors that go into the idea of having to think. Also, when you're looking at in the analysis phase, we might be able to look at some benchmarking. And benchmarking is a really critical piece as you consider and compare your process to other processes. And when I say other processes, that may mean external processes or internal processes. So benchmarking is certainly available from organizations such as the Medical Group Management Association or the National Society of Certified Healthcare Business Consultants. And those have some excellent outside of your organization benchmarks that you could look at. So when you're comparing your data to external data, that's awesome. Or you can benchmark your own internal data from where you were last year or the year before, or last month to this month, and so on. So the idea of benchmarking is really a good way for you to get a better understanding of how your organization is functioning. Another aspect when you're doing the analysis is to think about common causes versus special causes. A common cause in a process is something that repeats each time you look at the process. A special cause may be a one-off, maybe a situation that happens just once in a while or whatever. So the idea would be to understand those common causes and to make sure that you know whether or not that particular aspect is really a root of your problem, and then you can identify and go into fixing it. A special cause may be just a one-time thing and therefore does not necessarily require some significant review. However, a special cause might be the most critical piece. It might have happened only 1 or 2 or 3 times out of the 40. But when it happened, it was very significant in terms of time delay. So maybe we need to fix that special cause. So we have to take a look at that. So the idea here, and then in terms of what are we delivering, what are we getting from the idea of analysis that we have? Well, we're documenting the causes. We're looking at the data. We may be charting the data in control charts, run charts, pie charts, column charts, different kinds of things like that. And identifying the value add and non-value add work so that we can now take a very serious look at coming up with an efficient cycle, an efficient process that we have. So we've identified then where we have our gaps, where we have our problem areas, and now we can then move forward to what? Coming up with improvement opportunities that we would want to move forward with. So we've had a very solid approach to our analysis. We've created data. We've looked at the data. We've understood the data relative to value, non-value, business value add, and so on. And now, and in fact, in our next session, we will talk about the improvement opportunities and improvement strategies that you would have to take this data that you've now analyzed and move forward to come up with a solution that would make sense. So just to reiterate again, what we're talking about here is it's time for you to think, and it's time for you to work with your team to be able to move forward with a good understanding of how and what needs to be done to improve the process. And that word improve fits into what? Our next session, that we will have. So don't forget to subscribe to the Owendahl Consulting channel on YouTube, or to continue to look at We Can Be Better, and to listen to what We Can Be Better on the on your podcast components, and share these ideas with others so that you can all work together to improve patient care, the real goal that we all have as we move forward. One other point, please feel free to reach out to me at my email that's noted as odahl@owendahlconsulting.com. And I would be very happy to answer any questions, provide any other further insights that you may have relative to this topic or any of the other topics that we cover in this series. So we look forward to seeing you and talking with you again in the improved stage. So have a great day, and thank you very much for sharing your time and your willingness to continue learning. Have a good day. Bye.